"He's not my dad." She signed it over and over, her hands moving fast and desperate and completely silent to everyone around her. 8 years old and screaming in a language nobody in that rest stop spoke. Nobody except the man in the leather vest who walked in from the parking lot and whose hands remembered something his grief had been trying to forget. But we are not there yet. We need to start 20 minutes earlier, at the moment when everything that was about to happen was still just a Wednesday afternoon at a highway rest stop in rural Tennessee. The kind of afternoon that does not announce itself. The kind that looks like every other Wednesday afternoon until it doesn't. The rest stop on Interstate 40 outside of Cookeville sat between exits the way rest stops do, functional and featureless, a place you stopped at because you needed to and left as soon as you didn't. It had a low concrete building with bathrooms and vending machines and a covered picnic area with 6 tables. A parking lot divided into cars and trucks with a narrow strip of grass between them that nobody ever used except dogs being walked by people who wanted to be somewhere else. It was 2:47 in the afternoon, a Wednesday. Light traffic. A family in a minivan with 3 kids who had been driving since Georgia. 2 truckers at separate tables eating from brown bags with the specific companionable solitude of men who spend most of their lives alone in cabs. A young woman at the vending machine trying to get it to accept a dollar bill that it kept rejecting. A rest stop attendant named Beverly, 53 years old, who had worked this particular stop for 9 years and had developed a comprehensive philosophy about the traveling public that was mostly unflattering. Gerald Pitts walked Nora to the picnic area at 2:49. He walked with his hand on her shoulder, the hand of a man guiding a child, the hand of a patient father managing a difficult moment. From a distance of 20 feet, it looked like nothing worth a second look. From a distance of 20 feet, it looked like every other man at every other rest stop who had stopped with a child who needed a bathroom break and was not entirely cooperative about it. Nora was 8 years old. She had dark red hair cut to her chin and green eyes and freckles across the bridge of her nose. She was wearing dark blue jeans and a white long-sleeve shirt and white sneakers that had a small drawing of a star on the left toe that she had done herself with a purple marker the previous Tuesday. She had a yellow school backpack on her back, and she had not let go of the straps since Gerald had put her in his car outside Riverside Elementary 43 minutes ago. She had been signing since the parking lot, not at Gerald. She had stopped signing at Gerald in the first 5 minutes because Gerald's response to her signing was to tighten his hand on her shoulder in a way that communicated clearly that the signing was not going to produce the results she wanted from him. She signed at everyone else. She signed at the woman in the minivan who was unbuckling her 3 children from their car seats. The woman had looked at Nora's moving hands with the distracted sympathy of a person who is managing 3 children and a husband and a 12-hour drive and cannot take on anything additional. She had smiled at Nora in the apologetic way that people smile at deaf children when they do not know what to do, and had turned back to her own situation. Nora had signed more urgently. Gerald had said something to the minivan woman that Nora could not hear. She could not hear anything. She had been profoundly deaf since the day she was born, and sound was not something she had ever experienced, and was not something she thought about in those terms. What she thought about was the fact that her hands were moving, and the words were clear and precise, and nobody was reading them. "He is not my dad. Please help me. My name is Nora." She had signed these things to the minivan woman, and the minivan woman had walked her children toward the bathrooms. She had signed them to a trucker who had looked at her with a kind of helpless discomfort and kept walking. She had signed them to Beverly, the attendant who had watched for a moment, and then looked at Gerald, and Gerald had said something with the calm, reasonable expression of a man explaining his child's disability, and Beverly had nodded and gone back to her station, because what Gerald said had been enough to make Beverly's instinct about family disputes override the other thing she was feeling. Beverly would think about that for a long time afterward. The young woman at the vending machine had finally gotten her dollar accepted and was gone before Nora could reach her. That was 11 adults in 40 minutes across 2 locations, 12 counting Beverly, 12 people who had seen Nora's hands moving and had found a reason not to stop. At 2:54, Gerald walked Nora to the picnic table farthest from the building. He sat across from her. He put his hands flat on the table and looked at her with the specific patient expression of a man who has done this before and knows that patience is the tool. Nora sat across from him. She held the straps of her yellow backpack. She looked at the parking lot. She looked at the cars coming in and the cars going out. She looked at everyone who passed. Her hands moved. He took me from school. Call my mom, please. A man with a small dog walked past the picnic area. He looked at Nora. He looked at her moving hands. He looked at Gerald sitting across from her with his hands flat and patient on the table. He walked on. Nora watched him go. She looked back at the parking lot. And then a sound came through the lot that she could not hear, but that she felt in her chest and in the soles of her feet. The specific vibration of a motorcycle engine. She had felt this before and knew what it was, the way you know things you have learned through the body rather than the ear. A single bike. A man in a leather vest. He parked at the far end of the lot. He got off. He took off his helmet. He was 49 years old with a gray-shot beard and dark eyes and the particular unhurried movement of a man who has been on a road for several hours and is in no rush about the next 10 minutes. He was walking toward the vending machines. He was going to pass the picnic area. Nora looked at him. She looked at his hands as he walked. Not for any reason, just the habit of a person who reads hands the way hearing people read faces. His hands were at his sides. Relaxed. She looked at his face. He had not seen her yet. She raised her hands. Cal Merritt had been riding since 6 that morning. Not because he was going anywhere specific. He had a destination, a chapter meeting in Knoxville. But the meeting was not until 7 in the evening, and the distance between his house in Nashville and Knoxville was not a distance that required starting at 6 in the morning unless a man wanted the long way. Cal had wanted the long way. He had been wanting the long way more often lately, for years since Meg. He did not mark the anniversary consciously. He was not a man who kept calendars of grief, but his body kept its own calendar, and in the 2 weeks around the date, his body tended to route him toward long roads and open skies and the specific therapy of forward motion at speed that had been his preferred method of processing things since he was 19 years old. He was 49 now. He had been processing things for 30 years. He pulled into the rest stop because the coffee he'd had at 6 was long gone and the vending machine coffee at a Tennessee rest stop was approximately terrible and approximately what he needed. He parked at the end of the lot away from the other vehicles because that was habit. He climbed off the bike and pulled off his helmet and felt the specific relief of stillness after hours of motion. He was walking toward the building. He passed the covered picnic area. He saw the girl. He saw her the way he had been trained by 12 years of having Meg in his life to see certain things. Not her red hair or her backpack or her white sneakers with the purple star. He saw her hands, moving fast and precise and complete. The hands of a child who was not playing. The hands of a child who was saying something that mattered. His feet stopped. Not a decision exactly. More like a physical fact. His feet stopped and the rest of him stopped with them, and he stood at the edge of the picnic area, and he read her hands. He is not my dad. Cal went very still. He read it again as she signed it again. He is not my dad. Please help me. She had not seen him yet. She was signing at the parking lot in general, at the people passing, at anyone. Her green eyes moved across the lot with a specific desperate sweep of someone who has been trying to reach people through glass and has not stopped trying. Then she saw Cal standing still. He watched her face change. Not hope. Not yet. She had signed at too many people who stood still for a moment and then kept walking to let herself feel hope at the sight of a man who had stopped. What he saw was something more careful than hope. The specific cautious quality of a child who has been let down enough times in the last 40 minutes to require confirmation before she invested in the possibility. She signed again, slower this time, looking directly at him. He is not my dad. Cal looked at the man across the table from her. Medium build, 40-something, hands flat on the table. He was watching Cal with a controlled assessment of a man reading a situation and calculating his response to it. He had not moved yet. He was deciding whether Cal was a threat or a misread. Cal looked back at Nora. He brought his hands up. His hands remembered before his mind caught up with them. 12 years of talking to Meg. 12 years of ASL at the breakfast table, and in the car, and at the movies, and in the specific private language of a brother and sister who had built a vocabulary between them that was broader than any dictionary. For years of those hands doing nothing. For years of the words sitting unused in the muscle memory of his fingers. They remembered. I understand you, he signed. I am reading you. You are safe. Nora's face. He would not forget it. The specific expression of a child who has been screaming into silence and has suddenly been heard. It was not relief. It was larger than relief and more complicated. It was the expression of someone whose reality has just been confirmed by another person after a period of having their reality denied by everyone around them. The particular devastation and release of being seen. Her chin trembled once. Then she signed fast and complete, everything, all of it. He took me from school. Riverside Elementary. My name is Nora Ellis. My MOM is Sarah Ellis. He is not my dad. He put me in his car. I have been trying to tell people. Nobody understood. Please call my MOM. Please. Cal took it all in. Every word. He signed back. Slow and steady. The deliberate pace of a man who understands that the child in front of him needs to know she is being received completely. I hear you, Nora. I understand everything you said. I am going to help you. I need you to stay calm and keep looking at me. Can you do that? Nora nodded. Not signed. Nodded. The universal language. Gerald had stood up. Cal saw it in his peripheral vision. The man standing up from the table with the controlled, unhurried movement of someone who has made a calculation and is now acting on it. He walked toward Cal with the reasonable open expression of a man approaching a misunderstanding that he is confident he can resolve. Hey there, Gerald said. His voice was pleasant, practiced. The voice of a man who had used it in situations like this before. I think there might be some confusion. She's my daughter. She's deaf and she gets frustrated sometimes when she can't communicate. I appreciate you stopping, but we're fine. Cal looked at him. He looked at him for a long time with the flat, unhurried attention of a man reading something. What's her name? Cal said. Gerald smiled. I'm sorry, your daughter, Cal said. What's her name? A half-second pause. Small. Controlled. But there. Emma, Gerald said. Cal looked at Nora. He signed. One word. What is your name? Nora signed back in the specific rapid assessment of a man who has been operating in a space where his confidence in the outcome has just been removed and is now determining what the new variables mean for his options. Cal reached into his vest pocket. He took out his phone. He did not look at it. He kept his eyes on Gerald. He dialed 911. The 911 operator answered on the second ring. 911, what is your emergency? My name is Cal Merritt, Cal said. His voice was completely even. I am at the Interstate 40 rest stop outside Cookeville, Tennessee. I have a child here who is telling me she has been taken from her school. Her name is Nora Ellis. She was taken from Riverside Elementary approximately 45 minutes ago. The man who took her is standing in front of me. I need a state trooper here immediately. Gerald had gone very still. The calculation had completed. Cal watched the result of it arrive in Gerald's face. The pleasant expression was gone, not replaced by anything dramatic. Just gone. What was underneath it was emptier than anger and more dangerous than panic. The flat quality of a man who has had a plan fail and is now running contingency. Sir, can you confirm the child's name? The operator said. Nora Ellis, Cal said. Nora Ellis. She attends Riverside Elementary in Cookeville. Her mother is Sarah Ellis. This child is deaf. She has been signing to adults at this rest stop for at least 30 minutes, and nobody understood her. A pause. Sir, I'm dispatching a unit now. Can you stay on the line? Yes, Cal said. He looked at Gerald. Gerald looked at the parking lot. Cal understood what he was reading in Gerald's posture. The specific geometry of a man calculating distance to a vehicle. Cal shifted his own position by 2 steps. Not dramatically. Just 2 steps that happened to place him between Gerald and the direction of the parking lot. Don't, Cal said quietly. Gerald looked at him. There's nowhere to go that matters, Cal said. I've described your vehicle. I've described you. There is a unit coming. You are done. Something moved through Gerald's face that was not quite recognition and not quite resignation. It was the expression of a man who had operated successfully for a period of time and was now at the end of that period. He sat back down. Not because Cal had told him to. Because the calculation had resolved and sitting down was the answer it had produced. Cal looked at Nora. She was standing at the edge of the picnic table watching him with those green eyes, still holding the backpack straps. She had not let go of them once. He signed to her, one hand on phone. I am talking to police. They are coming. You are safe. I am not leaving. Nora looked at his hands. She looked at Gerald sitting down. She walked around the table. She walked to Cal, and she stood beside him, and she pressed against his left side the way children press against adults when they have found a safe place in a room. Not grabbing him. Not asking for anything. Just placing herself in the geography of him, because the geography of him had become the safest geography available. Cal felt her small shoulder against his left arm. He thought about Meg. He pressed his lips together. He focused on the phone. Sir, the unit is 7 minutes out, the operator said. Can you describe the suspect? Cal described Gerald. Height, build, clothing. The specific gray of his jacket, the out-of-state plates on his vehicle, which Cal had clocked when he walked through the lot. Gerald watched him describe all of this with the empty expression of a man who has accepted the present situation and is already somewhere else in his mind. What school did you say? The operator asked. Riverside Elementary. Cookville. She was taken from the pickup line. A pause. Sir, I have a missing persons report for a Nora Ellis filed 40 minutes ago. Mother is Sarah Ellis. Father is deceased. Father is deceased. Cal looked at Gerald. Confirmed. Cal said into the phone. The man with me is not her father. He did not look away from Gerald when he said it. Beverly, the rest stop attendant, had come out of the building. Something had reached her from where she stood at her station. The quality of what was happening in the picnic area had a different texture from what she had assessed as a family dispute 20 minutes ago. She stood at the building entrance watching. Her hands were at her sides. Cal looked at her. He looked at her steadily. Beverly looked at Nora standing against Cal's left side. She looked at the yellow backpack. She looked at Gerald sitting at the table with his empty expression. And Beverly, who had worked this rest stop for 9 years and had a comprehensive philosophy about the traveling public that was mostly unflattering, walked toward the picnic area and stood on the other side of Nora and did not say anything because there was nothing to say that was going to fix the 20 minutes she had spent not coming out here. She just stood there, on Nora's other side. Nora looked up at her. Beverly looked down at her. Nora reached over and took Beverly's hand. Beverly closed her eyes for a moment. Then she opened them and kept them open because closing them was something she was going to have to earn the right to do later, and right now the job was staying present and staying in the hard place rather than retreating from it. Cal's phone buzzed. A text from a number in his contacts. Road brother. Decker. Where are you? You sent a location pin. Cal had not consciously sent a location pin. He looked at his phone. He had sent it. In the background, running on the muscle memory of a man who had ridden with a chapter for 22 years. When Cal stopped moving and the situation had clarified itself, his thumb had found the chapter group text and dropped a pin without requiring his conscious involvement. 22 years of brotherhood does things to your instincts. He typed back one line. Rest stop I-40 Cookville. Need presence, not force. Situation controlled. Trooper inbound. Decker replied in under 30 seconds. 10 minutes. Cal put his phone back to his ear. Sir, the unit is 4 minutes out, the operator said. Are you still with the child? Yes, Cal said. She's right here. He looked down at Nora beside him. She was looking up at him. He signed to her with his free hand. 4 minutes. Police coming. Your MOM is coming. You are safe. Nora read his hands. She looked at Gerald. She looked back at Cal. She signed one word. Scared. Cal looked at her. He signed back. I know. Being scared and being brave are the same thing. You have been brave this whole time. Nora looked at his hands. She looked at his face. She reached up with a hand that was not pressed against his side, and she touched the sleeve of his leather vest. Not grabbing. Just touching. The specific gesture of a child confirming that something is real. Cal stood very still. He thought about Meg at 8 years old touching his sleeve the same way on a school morning in their kitchen in Murfreesboro when she had been scared about something and had needed to confirm that he was real and present and not going anywhere. He breathed. He stayed. The state trooper arrived in 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Not 4 minutes. 3:40. Trooper Dana Reeves was 37 years old and had been on the highway patrol for 11 years and had a child of her own at home who was 6 years old and who she thought about every single time a call came in involving a child. She pulled into the rest stop with her lights going and was out of the cruiser in one motion before the door had fully stopped swinging. She assessed the scene. A man in a leather vest, standing with a small red-haired girl pressed against his side. The girl in a yellow backpack. A woman in a rest stop uniform standing on the other side of the girl, holding her hand. A second man sitting at the picnic table with the specific quality of someone who has accepted a situation. She walked to Cal first. You called. Cal Merritt, Cal said. I was the caller. The child is Nora Ellis. The man at the table is the person who took her. I can give you everything. Reeves looked at Nora. She crouched down. She had done this before. Not exactly this, but close enough to know how to do it. She looked at Nora's face, and she spoke slowly and clearly the way people speak to deaf children when they know about lip reading, even though lip reading is imprecise and exhausting, and not the relief most hearing people assume it is. Hi, Nora. My name is Dana. I'm a police officer. You are safe. Nora read her lips. She looked at Cal. Cal signed. She is police. She is safe. You can talk to her. Nora looked at Reeves. She signed. The signs were fast and precise, and Reeves watched them with a focused expression of someone who understood she was receiving information she could not read. Can you? Reeves looked at Cal. She's giving you her full name and address and her mother's phone number, Cal said. She has been signing this to adults for 40 minutes. Something moved through Reeves's face at that. She looked at Gerald. She stood up. Sir, I need you to stand up and keep your hands visible. Gerald stood. He kept his hands visible. He said nothing. He had apparently made a decision about silence and was committed to it in the way that people are committed to decisions they have had a long time to make. Reeves walked toward him. She did not run. She moved with the efficiency of someone who has already determined that running is not required, and that efficiency is better than speed in this particular configuration. Cal watched her handle Gerald with the specific focus of a professional who had trained for exactly this situation and was inside the training now. He did not interfere. His job in this moment was to stay beside Nora. He looked down at her. She was watching Reeves and Gerald with her green eyes. Cal signed to her. Do you have the card in your backpack? The emergency card your MOM made you. Nora looked at him. She unzipped the top pocket of her yellow backpack. She pulled out a laminated card. White card. Blue border. Large clear text. This child is deaf. Her name is Nora Ellis. If she is alone or in danger, please call her mother Sarah Ellis. The phone number. The address. A photograph of Nora and her mother together. Cal looked at the card. He thought about Sarah Ellis making this card, laminating it, putting it in her daughter's backpack. The specific maternal arithmetic of preparing a child for the worst case. The love and the fear contained in a laminated card with a blue border. He handed the card to Reeves when she came back. Reeves read it. She took a photograph of it with her phone and sent it somewhere. Mother has been notified, Reeves said. She is 40 minutes out. 40 minutes, Cal confirmed. He looked at Nora. 40 minutes. Your MOM is coming. 40 minutes. Nora held up both hands. She spread all 10 fingers. Then she held up 4 fingers on one hand. 40. She understood. She nodded. She sat down on the bench of the picnic table. She put her backpack in her lap. She held the laminated card with both hands and looked at the photograph on it. Her mother's face. Nora and Sarah together. Wherever and whenever that photograph had been taken, there had been sun, because it was a sunny photograph with both of them squinting slightly and both of them smiling in the specific way of people who are happy in a particular moment and know it. Cal sat down beside her. He did not need to. He could have stood. But Beverly was still there. She had not left. She sat on the opposite bench with her hands in her lap, watching the parking lot and doing the accounting that she was going to be doing for a long time. The accounting of what she had assessed and what she had missed and what the cost of the miss had almost been. Decker arrived. 4 bikes in the lot. Cal's chapter brothers. They came in quiet, no spectacle. And they arranged themselves across the picnic area in the way the chapter had learned to arrange itself when a situation required presence rather than action. They were there. They were visible. They communicated by being there that Cal was not alone, and that Cal's assessment of the situation was endorsed by the people who knew him best. Decker walked over. He looked at Nora. He looked at Cal. He said nothing. He sat down at the table. After a moment he signed to Nora. Badly. The rough, unpracticed signing of a man who had picked up a little from Cal years ago and had retained about 40% of it. Hello. I am Cal's friend. Nora looked at his signing. She looked at Cal. She signed back to Decker with the specific patience of a deaf person receiving poor signing from a hearing person who is trying. Hello. You sign badly. Decker looked at Cal. What did she say? She said hello, Cal said. Decker looked at Nora. Nora looked at Cal. Cal signed. He cannot sign well, but he tries. Nora looked at Decker. She signed slowly and clearly, the way you sign to someone who is learning. That is okay. Keep trying. Cal watched Decker receive this from an 8-year-old girl in a yellow backpack who had been through the worst afternoon of her life and was now being generous with a large man in leather who could barely sign his own name. He thought about Meg. He thought about every person Meg had ever been patient with. The 12-year-old Cal who had made every beginner's mistake in ASL and had been corrected by his 9-year-old sister with a specific combination of exasperation and encouragement that only siblings achieve. He pressed his palm flat on the table. He breathed. 32 more minutes. Sarah Ellis arrived in 31 minutes. She had driven 40 miles in 31 minutes. And she had done it in the specific mode of a mother who has received the call she has been dreading since her daughter was born and who has made a decision about speed limits that she will sort out later. Cal saw her car before he saw her. A white Honda, one headlight slightly angled from what looked like a minor old parking lot incident, driving into the rest stop at the speed of someone who had no interest in the speed limit of rest stop parking lots. She was out of the car before it fully stopped. She was a small woman, 36 years old, with dark red hair the same shade as Nora's worn up in a messy hospital bun because she had come directly from her shift. She wore green scrub pants and a gray sweater she had grabbed on the way out. She was moving across the parking lot at a speed that was not quite running, but was everything short of it. Nora saw her from the picnic table. She stood up. The yellow backpack fell from her lap to the bench. She took 2 steps. Then she ran. She ran across the picnic area and across the strip of grass and across the parking lot, and Sarah met her halfway and went down to her knees and caught her and held her, and the holding was the specific, ferocious holding of a mother who has spent 31 minutes not knowing if she was going to be allowed to do this. Cal watched from the picnic table. He watched Sarah's hands move across Nora's back and hair with the frantic inventory of a parent, confirming that every part of a child is present and intact. He watched Nora's arms around her mother's neck with the completeness of someone who has found the thing they were signing about for 40 minutes and is not letting go. He looked at the table. He looked at his own hands. He thought about Meg. Not the accident. Not the hospital. Not the 4 years of the specific weight that loss leaves in a person. He thought about Meg at 12 years old in their kitchen in Murfreesboro signing something fast and funny about their mother and laughing at Cal's attempt to sign something back. He thought about the specific quality of her laugh, which he had not been able to hear, but which he had always been able to see in the way her whole face reorganized itself around it. He thought about Meg being 9 years old and walking into a grocery store and signing at the checkout person, and the checkout person smiling politely and not understanding a single sign, and Meg's face doing that thing it did when this happened, which was not hurt and not anger, but something more complicated and more patient than either of those things. He thought about how many checkout people there had been, how many grocery stores, how many rest stops. Trooper my sister, Cal said. She was deaf. She taught me when I was 12. Sarah looked at him. She looked at him the way people look at things they do not have the right words for yet. The way people look when they are standing in the specific space where gratitude is too small a word and they have not found the right size yet. What was her name? Sarah said. Meg, Cal said. Sarah looked at Nora. She signed to her. This man's sister was deaf. Her name was Meg. She taught him to sign. Nora looked at Cal. She signed. I know. He told me. Sarah looked at her daughter. Then she looked at Cal. She told me about you on the way over, Sarah said. She signed the whole thing in the car. I could see her in the rearview mirror. Cal looked at Nora. What did she sign? Sarah's voice changed slightly. Not breaking. Just changing. She said a man in a leather vest read her hands and didn't keep walking. Cal looked at the table. He looked at the rest stop. He thought about the 12 people who had kept walking. He thought about the trucker and the minivan woman and Beverly and the young woman at the vending machine. He thought about what it had cost Nora to sign at each of them and have each of them walk past. He thought about the specific accumulating cost of that, of trying 12 times and failing 12 times and trying again. She kept signing, Cal said. After every person who walked past, she kept signing. Sarah pressed her lips together. She always does, Sarah said. She has never once stopped trying to be understood. Cal looked at Nora. Nora was looking at him. She signed. Thank you. He signed back. You were brave the whole time. I just stopped. Nora read his hands. She looked at him for a moment. Then she signed one more thing. Meg would have liked you. Cal went very still. He looked at the signs she had made. He looked at this 8-year-old girl in a yellow backpack who had been through the worst afternoon of her life and had just said the most generous thing anyone had said to him in 4 years. He did not respond immediately. He let the signs sit in the air between them for a moment, the way you let something real sit when you want to honor its weight. Then he signed back. She would have liked you too. She liked people who didn't stop trying. Gerald Pitts was in the back of Trooper Reeves's cruiser. He had said nothing since his initial attempt at explanation in the picnic area. He sat with his hands in his lap and his empty expression and the specific stillness of a man who has made a decision about what the next several hours required of him. Reeves had called for a second unit. There were now 2 cruisers in the rest stop parking lot. A detective was coming from Cookville. Beverly had given her statement. She had given it to Reeves with the specific precision of a woman who understood that her statement needed to be complete and accurate, and that the completeness of it was the only thing she had to offer against the fact of what she had missed. She had not minimized. She had not explained. She had said exactly what she had done and what she had not done, and she had said it clearly, and then she had gone back to her station because the rest stop was still a rest stop and people were still stopping and her job was still her job. At her station, she had put her face in her hands for 30 seconds. Then she had taken her hands away and done her job. The 2 truckers had given statements. One of them had seen Nora signing and had kept walking. He said it in his statement with a flatness that was its own kind of accounting. He had seen her. He had kept walking. He did not make excuses. He just said it. The minivan family was long gone. Cal sat at the picnic table with Decker while Reeves took a statement. He gave it completely. The time he arrived. What he saw. What Nora signed. What he signed back. The timeline of the 911 call. Gerald's response. All of it in the flat informational voice of a man who is giving facts rather than processing them, because the processing comes later when the facts have been delivered. Reeves wrote it all down. Mr. Merritt, she said when he was done. You said she signed to approximately 12 adults before you arrived. That's what she told me, Cal said. I saw the last two. Before that she described it. And none of them understood. None of them. Reeves looked at her notepad. She was signing for approximately 40 minutes, she said. Yes. Reeves looked at the picnic area, at the table where Nora had been sitting when Gerald had his hand on her shoulder, at the concrete and the grass and the ordinary architecture of a rest stop that had been the location of something that was not ordinary. If you hadn't stopped, Reeves said. She did not finish the sentence. She would have kept signing, Cal said. She wasn't going to stop. Reeves looked at him. You believe that? I know it, Cal said. I've known people who sign. They don't stop trying to be understood. They just keep going. He said it without looking at Reeves. He said it to the parking lot. Reeves closed her notepad. Thank you, Mr. Merritt. Yes, ma'am. She walked back toward the cruisers. Decker had been sitting through the statement with the quiet of a man who knows when silence is the right contribution. He waited until Reeves was gone. You good, he said. Yeah, Cal said. You don't look good. I'm good, Decker. A pause. Meg. Cal looked at the table. Yeah, he said. Decker nodded. He did not say anything else about it. He was not a man who said unnecessary things, and the emergency card with her name and her mother's name and the photograph of the two of them in the sun. She held it out to Cal. Cal looked at it. He looked at Nora. She signed. So you remember my name. And so you come find me again. Cal took the card. He held it in his hands. He looked at the photograph. Nora and Sarah in the sun, both of them squinting, and both of them smiling in the specific way of people who are happy in a moment and know it. He looked at Nora. He signed. I do not need a card to remember your name. Nora looked at his hands. She signed back. I know, but keep it anyway. Cal looked at the card. He put it in the inside pocket of his leather vest. Left side, where the heart is. Sarah watched him do it. She pressed her lips together. She looked at the sky. She's going to want to see you again, Sarah said. She's going to talk about this for years. She can find me, Cal said. Tell her the chapter is in Nashville. We're not hard to find. She'll want to teach you, Sarah said. She'll want to give you a lesson. She does that. When someone signs badly, she fixes it. I probably need fixing, Cal said. You signed just fine today, Sarah said. Cal looked at the parking lot. My hands remembered, he said. I haven't used it properly since Meg. Sarah looked at him. I'm sorry about Meg, she said. She would have liked this kid, Cal said. She liked people who kept trying. Sarah looked at her daughter. Nora was looking at the laminated card pocket on Cal's vest. The outside of the pocket where the card was inside. She looked at it with a satisfied expression of someone who has placed something important in a safe location. Thank you, Sarah said again. Not as a formality, as the word that was the right size for what she meant. For stopping. For understanding her. She was loud, Cal said. Most people just weren't listening. The detective arrived 20 minutes later, and Cal gave his statement again, complete and precise. He was there for another hour. His chapter brothers waited. Nobody left. Nobody suggested leaving. The chapter sat at the picnic tables and drank bad vending machine coffee and waited because Cal was there, and that was enough reason. When it was finally done, and the cruisers had gone, and Sarah had driven away with Nora visible in the back seat, signing something at the rear window, Cal stood in the parking lot alone for a moment. He put his hand over the left pocket of his vest. He felt the shape of the laminated card through the leather. He thought about Meg. He thought about 12 people who had walked past. He thought about Nora's hands moving in the afternoon light, fast and precise and completely silent to everyone who had passed her, screaming in a language nobody spoke. He thought about what it means to learn a language for love and to carry it in your hands for the rest of your life, even when the person you learned it for is gone. He put on his helmet. He started his bike. He sat for a moment with the engine running. Then he pulled out his phone. He opened his contacts. He scrolled to a name. His ASL instructor. A woman named Donna, who had taught the adult beginner classes at the community center in Nashville for 20 years. He had taken her class at 12 years old. He had taken it again at 30 when he wanted to sharpen what he had. He had not been back since Meg. He sent her a text. I need to sign up again. If you have a class. He put the phone in his pocket. He pulled out of the rest stop onto Interstate 40. The Tennessee afternoon opened up ahead of him, long and golden and going toward evening. He rode. And in his inside left pocket, against his chest, a laminated card with a blue border carried a photograph of a woman and her daughter in the sun. Both of them squinting. Both of them smiling. Both of them happy in a moment and knowing it. He rode toward Knoxville. He had a chapter meeting at 7. He was going to be early.